gesture drawings with accurate proportions. Mr. Marcus Graphic Arts Illustration Classes. Relative measurement. When your unit of measurement is a part of the drawing and is used to determine the relative size of other objects on the same page. Hi everybody, I hope that everybody's enjoying their extended vacations, even though this isn't really an extended vacation. Today we're going to be learning how to create gesture drawings and the human figure using accurate proportions. We're going to learn what relative measurement is as opposed to a strict unit of measurement, and what it might look like when your proportions are off, kind of like this. So let's get started, shall we? Let's consider the male figure first. The male figure tends to be stockier than the girl figure. The girl figures tend to be a little bit thinner. Again, this is all ideally speaking, not everybody is constructed the same way. We tend to be about 6 to 7 heads tall, the head being our unit of measurement. It is our relative unit. And you can see that everything lines up right below the heads. You can see the chest lines up below the first head, belly button, crotch, knee, and then of course it goes down to the high angle, and then of course the bottom of the foot all the way down to the bottom. Please note that your elbow bends just in number 3 and also just below the rib cage itself. And then of course we are 3 head widths wide, and girls tend to be about 2 head widths wide. So there's a little bit of difference in that. We tend to be also a little bit wider in the shoulder area. Women tend to be a little bit wider in the hip area. It's the center of gravity. We move down to the inverted triangle of the torso, and you can see that as we get down, we move to the inverted triangle of the crotch area, and then we're constructed by basic shapes. And you can see just below that, you have a cylinder shape that kind of tapers off and gets a little bit thinner down as it gets near the knee. You can see that happens on both of them. And then of course as you move down again, you will note that the calf is basically the same thing. It comes out a little bit though, and then it heads down into that inverted triangle right over there. Now let's move over to the arms. You can see that the arms are cylinders as well, and they end right just above the rib cage, just above the belly button, around head number 3, and then of course you have the forearms, which is also an inverted triangle that tapers off as it gets a little bit thinner. Hands are a completely different lesson, and we might get to that later on. Let's talk about the silhouette. That's a silhouette of a basic human figure. You can see how it fits right over the top, just like that. Now, what would that look like if we actually outlined the figure? Now, an outline is what we call a contour drawing. We're not doing contour drawings, we're going to be doing gesture drawing. But to give you an idea of what the figure might look like, it might look like that. Let's take a look at some of the basic structures, shall we? When we look at the human figure, we can see that there are some basic structures. I've got them all listed out there. You can pause this at any time and you can take a look at the basic structure of the human male. When you do your drawings, I want to make sure that you understand you have to do a front, side, and a back view, 3 separate views. Let's talk about the girls, or the women. When you look at the woman also, they're almost 9 heads tall. You can see over there they get a little bit taller because they tend to be more slender. The arms hang down to about the mid-thigh, and again, when you look at the silhouette, it kind of looks like that. Here's some of the basic structure for the human woman as well, and again, you're going to need a front, side, and back. Let's take a look at some sketches that we have that I can show you. These are some different sketches from various artists, and you can see that they are all gesture drawing. But what is a gesture drawing? A gesture drawing is when you do a very quick drawing. It's basically just trying to get outline. You don't spend a lot of time looking at detail. What you're trying to capture is motion and the actual figure itself. You can see all these different drawings here. These are quick drawings. These are not done with a lot of detail in mind. They're done, the idea being that you're trying to capture motion and also accurate proportions. Make sure that the arms bend where they're meant to bend, the shoulders are where they're supposed to be, and everything is lined up properly and correctly. Let's take a look at a human figure. First, you develop the motion. In this case, it's kind of a curved line. After you do that, you're going to flesh out where the head is going to be, where the shoulders are going to be, where the hips are going to be. Then you're going to move a little bit further down. You're going to put the arms in and make sure that they bend just above the rib cage, because your arms bend just above the rib cage. And then, of course, you come back and finally you add all the detail that you need to make it complete. To do an actual gesture drawing of a human figure, I'm going to start with a boy. So, what is a gesture drawing? They're very quick sketches. You're not going to spend a lot of time on detail. Keep your wrist off the paper. where you don't want to move your wrist. You want to be moving from your elbow and from your shoulder like this. Big, broad gestures. You don't want to be doing anything very small. So the first thing you want to do is you want to say, what is my figure going to be like? Well, I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to give myself a line of motion that I'm going to work with. So obviously my shoulders are going to be here. My hips are going to be here. Now, my head will be here. Now your head is an oval shape like that. I'm going to be working from here on out. Now I know one head down, the chest is going to be here. 2 heads down, that's where the belly button is going to be. 3 heads down is where the crotch is going to be. 4 heads down, the knee. 5, it's a little bit down below here for the knee, a little bit longer, and then of course you're going to get a little bit longer again. You're going to come down to here to where the ankle is, and then of course the feet would be down here. So I have a line of motion that I'm going to be working with like this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the shapes that are in there. We know that this is a triangle that comes in from here to here. We also know that it's going to come around here like this. We know that there's going to be a triangle here for the hips over here, all right? Let me make this a little bit darker so you can see what's going on, all right? So we're going to do it like that, and we're going to put this over here like that. Now, the legs. Obviously, we talked about the fact that the legs are pretty much Okay, and then of course we have the knee that's down into here, and the calves that are over through here. Alright, coming down like this, you're going to have the separation here, and it's going to go like this on an angle. Now, the chest is going to be through this area here. Now you can see that I work very quick. My wrist is up off the table, and then I'm going to come back around here, and I'm going to add the rib cage. It's going to be a little bit longer on this side because he's leaning. And then I'm going to add the torso in through here. Now, then there's going to be a little circular shape over here for where the shoulders are. And then, of course, there's going to be a cylinder underneath the neck, like that. So basically, we are working within the proper form right here. And you can see that as I go by, each time I go by, I refine it a little bit more so that I have an idea of what I'm working with. I'm going to do the arms. Now I know that the arms, like I said before, they come out like a tube, and just below the rib cage here is where the elbows face. It's going to happen over here as well, just below the rib cage. Here's the rib cage here. The rib cage is on an angle because everything is on an angle. Now I'm going to do the bottom of the arm. Now the bottom of the arm I'm going to extend down a little bit longer than normal. You would normally have the fingers right around here. But because he's leaning, I'm going to extend that down a little bit more. Fingers are going to come down to this area right about here. Now, the other arm I'm going to put on an angle. I'm going to have him reaching out, coming out like this maybe, and maybe his hand will be over here. Flesh it out a little bit more so that I have a better idea of what's going on. And I'm going to get a little bit darker. Each time they get up a little bit. You'll notice that my wrist is always up off the table. Keep fleshing it out so I have a good idea of what's going on. But rib cage is going to come over through here. And I always draw the figures if they were naked, but please don't make them naked at the end, because we have to have an idea of where everything is going to be located, and then I can close them after. Where's your face going to be? We all know the basic structure of the face. We did that before. So you have the eyes over through here, the nose, mouth. Maybe he's looking down a little bit. So basically, you have a figure, but the figure looks like a bald alien with no clothes on. And of course, I'm going to do the feet as well. Feet are a difficult thing, and I'm going to do them here, but they take a lesson all into themselves. I'm going to start adding some clothing. Again, gesture drawings, quick gestures. Making sure I have clothes, because we are a middle school class and we don't draw naked, we don't draw nudes. Now you could be looking at pictures on the internet for source material if you...
In your eye when you close away your
But you see, it's almost like scribbling. You just keep drawing quickly, you keep filling out areas, you keep adding more detail as you go along. It gets darker as you go along. You start very light, and you continually work darker, darker, darker. Add more detail, add more detail. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Basically what it is that you're looking for. Again, we're not looking for a lot of detail, so we're just going to keep sketching. We're going to keep adding, 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 adding. Detail until you have your basic gesture drawing. Now remember, you're going to need to do 6 drawings. 6 drawings, all 6 drawings. You have to do a side, a front, and a back of a boy, and a side, a front, and a back of a girl. Until you have 6 drawings in various different poses, doing various different things. And you're trying to capture motion. That's what gesture drawing is for, capturing motion. You don't have time to sit there and spend on detail. You want to capture it while it's fresh in your memory. Detail and shading and shadows. Again, we're not spending a lot of time on it. The shadows, your shading and shadows must be consistent. If your light source is coming from one side, your shadows have to be on the other side. About scribbling, getting in gestures, ideas, where are things going to be located. So if later on you wanted to do this, turn this into a painting or even one of your advertisement illustrations, you know exactly what you want. Acceptable gesture drawing. Okay, now we're going to do a woman. A woman. Basically the same idea. We're going to start with a line that we're going to follow. Straight up and down, just for now. I'm going to draw a woman. So I'm going to start by giving a line that I'm going to work around. The head is going to be here. Then the shoulders, and I'm going to put her on a little bit of an angle. So I'm going to have her angle, her shoulder angled up. The chest would be here, belly button here, hips would be here. I'm going to have the hips angled in the opposite direction. Of course, a woman's shoulders are only 3. I'm actually only 2 wide. So from here to here would be, her shoulders would come to about here. This is where her shoulders are going to be. Here, lining up with the shoulders, maybe a little bigger. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flesh it out. We have the inverted triangle here. It's going to come down to here. And then we're going to have another inverted triangle here. The head is going to be here. Now there's 1. The chest is going to be here. Belly button is going to be about here. And then of course the legs are going to come down to here. And they're going to come down, the knees are about to here. Thinner than men's calves. Again, this is always ideally speaking. Not everybody is constructed the same way. I'm going to start fleshing it out a little bit, following the basic shapes that I have. Now you can see it's starting to take shape. You can see that the woman is over here, her hips are on an angle, but they straighten up in the legs, and women tend to be a little bit thinner in the arms and in the shoulder area than a man. And I'm going to add where the neck is going to be. Women have thinner necks than men, and the arms are going to come out from over here. Again, the rib cage is going to be up around here. It's going to be on an angle because I have everything on an angle. Cage I need to know because that's where the elbow is. Alright, so the elbow is going to line up with the rib cage. Okay, that as well. And again, to about the middle of her thigh. Now you have to imagine where that is. So if you're going to turn it, it still has to be the same length. So about to here. The length doesn't change. And you'll notice I keep my wrist up off the page while I'm doing it. And maybe I'll have her hand here. I'm going to go more south. like what I did with the guy. I'm going to start trying to get it properly and correctly done. And the feet. And now I start fleshing it out. It is raised up over here. The chest is also going to be on an angle, so I'm going to have that come up through here like this. And of course, I'm going to start deciding where it needs to go by now. And I'm going to keep fleshing it out, quick sketches at a time. And of course the head. Face. And now I can start adding clothing. Again, we're going to make sure that we always stay within the boundaries of good taste. And we never draw nudes because this is not high school, this is middle school, and we always put clothes on people. Keep coming around, adding more detail each time that I go around. We're not going to worry about hands so much as the general idea of where the hands would be located. We're not going to be doing a lot of detail because these are gesture drawings. And I'm running out of pencil, but I should get done before the end of the pencil. Then of course I start adding shading and shadows. Again, your shadows and shading needs to be consistent. If you're shading on that side, then this side also has to be shaded. If your shadows, you have an arm out, it's going to obviously cast a shadow. There's going to be shadows over here. Has a tendency to protrude, will have a shadow, will cast a shadow. And just like that, I've drawn the woman. Look, okay, so you're going to use these exactly like this, and you are going to have a minimum of 6 drawings. Okay, you have to have front, side, and back of a boy and a girl in various poses. They could be standing, they could be sitting, they could be running. You have each and every one finished. When you do that, you take a picture, post it,